The first thing is I was really impressed when my learned colleague to my right was surprised that I had written my notes out longhand. You're lucky I just couldn't catch the hen to get the quilled feather to do it properly. Well, when I think of a valedictory speech, I contemplated that it could be similar to some of the eulogies that I've listened to over the years, where we tend to focus on all the really good stuff, but we glance over some of life's not so great moments. So my thoughts are a bit rough and raw, but I want to deal with all the moments that I've experienced in 4.5 years around this table. It's been a real ride. I was thrown in at the deep end. I got locked in for an hour in the office with the then governance advisor, and that was my induction. Have I enjoyed the experience? Hell yes. Was it what I expected? No way. Could I have done things better? Of course I could. I'm only human. Would I do it again? Yes, 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 I would. 3 things I've carried from my first triennium. And the first was I was very lucky to have advice from the late Ross McRoby when he advised me to write WAIT on the top of my diary at each meeting, standing for why am I talking? And that has stuck with me through my time here. Often we tend to want to rush with an answer or a question, and often you can gain more by sitting back and listening. I came with a sad sense of humour. I believe life is better enjoyed with a laugh. So at my first annual plan meeting, I thought I used some self-deprecating humour to describe my role as a sheep farmer before challenging the efforts to minimise rate rises. Boy, did I get both barrels. One from the governance advisor for using inappropriate agricultural language, and secondly for saying our efforts were akin to rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. One of the cost-saving measures at that meeting was to remove all staff training from the budget. The elected members voted to reinstate 50% of the training, and that was passed by 9 votes. So I then voted for 100% reinstatement. And one of the more experienced councillors challenged me at afternoon tea, why the hell did you do that? And I said, well, I knew I wasn't going to affect the outcome, but I've just signalled to staff that I've got their back and they're going to do a lot more from me than they will for you who only voted for 50%. We have, over the time, had some seating reshuffles and rearrangements. And after one such reshuffle, I thought I was in the septuagenarian sector, and only being in my late 60s, I complained and referred to the seating as the last of the summer wine. I totally enjoyed and must commend the WAG who over lunch had our name plaques changed to the characters from that particular show. They've never publicly admitted to being behind it, but I think it was absolutely brilliant. And if I was going to reward the person, I suspect, I would have got them to wear a gold chain occasionally in public. I use humour not to diminish issues we're addressing, but I find, like a good meal enhanced with condiments, life is to be enjoyed and enhanced with laughter wherever possible. I often think about what motivates me to turn up here and do what I've done or attempted to do. One is a desire to make things better. One was a belief that I was brought up with that service is expected, not demanded. And I also remember something from my Bible class days, which will shock most of you. But Jesus Christ said that inasmuch as you do it unto them, you do it unto me. And that's a phrase that stuck in my mind, that we do have a responsibility to treat people the way that we would expect to be treated. And we do have to look after those people in our community who struggle. My colleagues around the table have heard me prattle on at times about our role in governance. Believe it or not, I was reading a farming paper last night and it had what I thought was quite a good definition of governance. And it said governance role is to hold up a mirror to ensure we can see we're on track. Governance sets the destination and sets the roadmap to guide the organisation to that destination. For those of us that had the kumbaya moment where we drew our buses earlier on, can I amplify, that means we don't drive the bus and change the wheels. I don't purport to be a supporter of social media, but that was the inspiration for my next chapter, which is the perception v. the reality of being a councillor. So the first one is Councillor A is great. She or he, got my pronouns right, speaks up. Councillor B is great. She or he asks questions. Councillor C says nothing. The reality is we all only have one vote around this table. If you do your research, come with an open mind and make an informed decision, everyone is equal in that process. Another perception is that age and experience brings wisdom. I say maybe. Some of us who think we have the age and experience speak too much, and I include myself in that categorisation. But I want to acknowledge what our younger members have brought to the group this term. I am heartened and encouraged for our future. And I do acknowledge and thank the young Sheilas who have pointed out that there's no place for that sexist language anymore and that we do need to treat our peers as equals. Transformation. Now there's a buzzword. We didn't sell it well enough. We used HR jargon instead of real language. In the 1920s in the North Island town of Taihape, there was a sign because the desert road in those days was not sealed. And the sign said, "Choose your rut carefully. You may be in it for the next 26 miles. And I believe that that's where council was before we started transformation. But things are starting to move. The ruts are getting filled in. And from where I sit, transformation is working. For those of you who struggle with the language of transformation, can I suggest in agricultural terms, it's getting shit done better. Our relationship with the Tākara Whenua has grown during my time at council. And I often smile when iwi talk about the difficulties created over the time dealing with the Crown since Te Tiriti. I empathise with that position because my ancestors bailed out of Scotland in 1863 and come to New Zealand to pursue new opportunities and to get away from English domination. So we have a shared experience. And I believe that if we actually took that shared experience and walked together, we will actually create a better community. To Mr. Palmley and your staff, thank you for your assistance and your tolerance. I did tell you over lunch that a certain way of addressing those who come from the mother country is actually a term of endearment, not abuse. I need to acknowledge my fellow councillors for the collegiality shown through some very difficult times. This triennium has been something special. Gary, I'm sure that you've gone home after some council meetings and told Kerry that I'm a pillock.
Most meetings?
Yeah, you would be correct. But I would be remiss in not saying that, yes, on issues we've had our difficulties at times and differences, but the fact that for 12 years you have got up in the morning and come to serve your community in this space, which those of us who have worked in it realise can be very difficult. You need to be commended and thanked very, very much. To my wife, Rhonda, thank you for putting up with me and my council rantings and ravings. I actually received a lovely card last week, and Percival and McCone, you're on notice because it was from a Corriedale ratepayer who was thanking me for the work I'd done in the rural, advocating in the rural space. But what it actually had was also a message for Rhonda, and it highlighted thanking her, knowing that she didn't get her lawns mowed or the garden chores done on time. In fact, she's lucky if she gets them done at all. And the interruptions that council demands often brought to our life. So thank you for that. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't leave you with a quote or an inspirational verse or something that can inspire you to serve. I haven't got one of those. But I'd like to leave you with a thought from Frank Sinatra. And now the end is near, for I have attended my final meeting. No more to Oamaru for free lunch will I be eating. As I head home tonight, I'll travel down the state highway and reflect, while I've been here, I did it my